I have to go now. My future needs me.
Hey guys, MasakoX here. We're about to end What If Week for February with the little sleeper scenario that I didn't expect to be rather popular and came off the back of a little bit of banter between myself and TFS Gaming. If you're not familiar with it, well, let me enlighten you. What if Nappa turned good? You know about Raditz, but we gotta know about the big bold beauty that we've fallen in love with. The story that we're talking about in particular had its bombastic ending in the last part with a Cell Games that was very different to the original. Instead of a tournament style, we went for something a bit more exciting, a battle royale situation. TLDR, Nappa's cells. Also, I asked you in a separate poll, I forgot to put it here, about whether you'd like to see future Nappa a return in this part or have him return to the future to try and rebuild alongside Bulma. It was a very valid question, and thankfully, a lot of you people answered. And what did we come up with? Well, the vast majority of you said that he should go back to the future and help rebuild it. Which is fair enough, we can make that work. He will be back. Nappa never truly leaves, nor does he ever improperly shave. Speaking of shaving, today's sponsor is a perfect fit for Nappa, Dollar Shave Club. I have partnered up with them to say that now's the time to start manually shaving, something that I honestly must admit I've been struggling with for the longest time, relying on electric shavers. Luckily for me though, Dollar Shave Club provided me with this, their starter set for just $5. That's pretty good. In this pack you get such things like the executive razor plus some extra blades, plus some trial-sized versions of their One Wipe Charlies, their body cleanser, as well as their shave butter. And I know that Goku in particular would be a very big fan of this one. Buddy. I've had trouble finding the right razor. There's just so much choice I don't know where to begin. Plus they're really pricey. Also, I have no idea what's best for me. Thanks to this starter set though, I feel like I've made real progress. If you want to try yourself, go to dollarshaveclub.com/Masako, or just click my link in the description for your own starter set for just $5. That's dollarshaveclub.com/MASAKO. And I'm sure, like Nappa, you'd like to protect your image. So future Nappa decided to return to the future in order to try and fix it, possibly to make it fit for purpose one of these days. But that's not what we're going to focus on today. Today, we are going to be talking about present Nappa, as well as his place in the Son family. 7 years after Cell was defeated, things are looking pretty different in the Dragon Ball timeline. Nappa has truly become part of the Son family, having resisted this prospect for many years, thinking that all his job was to be the bodyguard of Son Goku. But since Goku's gone, that ship has sailed, and inevitability, he's gotten a little bit soft. This all comes to a head at the birth of Gohan's little brother, Goten. Almost at once, Nappa really endeared himself with the little tyke, being there from the moment he was born, and Goten doesn't know any different, and he absolutely adores Uncle Nappa! And I think this image from Dr. Neon Bones truly captures this really well. He also became a really vital assistant for the likes of Chi-Chi, not just being a chauffeur like I talked about in the previous part, who with her bossy attitude managed to ensure that Nappa had a lot of stuff to do despite the fact that his original master Goku was no longer around. He had all sorts of errands to do, and Nappa was happy to do these on one condition. He would like to train with the boys now and again, so that means they can remain strong and protect the Earth. And he claims this by saying, "Every Saiyan boy really needs to punch something every now and again." Chi-Chi agrees, albeit reluctantly, because she does know that without Goku, something really bad could happen and the world could be in danger. And also, Nappa's really good at helping out with the gardening. You know, planting those Cybermen really rubs off on a Saiyan. Nappa's dream of being a florist is almost complete. Recognizing Nappa's request and turning it into something sounding a little bit more constructive for herself, Chi-Chi says that, okay, you can be their trainer, so long as you're their personal trainer, ensuring that at least their minds could be trained as well as their bodies. Yeah, Nappa, mental exercise, What results is a completely grueling amount of physical exercise, coupled with some really useless mental training, because most of the time, Nappa would really be struggling trying to read out the questions, and Gohan would be having to add in the questions and add the own answers. So basically, he'd be his own teacher.
I'm talking about this really weird biology thing and reproduction.
But Gohan was still getting the grades, so that means it didn't arouse suspicion from Chi-Chi, so they could keep their little arrangement going. As amusing as that might sound, it wasn't really healthy for the mind of the young Saiyan teenage boy Gohan. It really strained the relationship that he had with Nappa. The lifestyle that he had is just not healthy. He had very little time to himself, and despite the fact that Chi-Chi and Nappa had really good intentions, it really did not work well for the young boy. Nappa tended to really overdo the physical training, as well as the mental training, at least trying to, because he just wanted to please Miss Chi-Chi, and of course her desire to turn her two sons into the smartest and strongest beings that could ever walk the planet. For Goten, this was all really fun, because he didn't know any different. This was pretty much the norm he had for all his life, so he just got into the spirit of it and really excelled. Also, Nappa wasn't as harsh on him as he was for Gohan, because naturally Goten's much younger. Since Trunks doesn't exist in this timeline, Goten didn't really have that many friends. I mean, the only exception to this is Bra, who was born to Bulma and Yamcha, but most of the time she prefers to stick around with her mum, learning about technology and stuff rather than training or just goofing off. Thankfully though, Nappa had 17 to be like some kind of bro pal, and the two of them would actually take Goten and Gohan to do some really fun activities like going around flying or going to see some monster trucks, because boys love monster trucks. As well as the occasional road trip, 17 driving of course. Still though, Gohan wanted something more. He wanted to save people, he wanted to do something with his strength, because this was peacetime after all. So he devised a plan when he reached a certain age, and this is the time where we get to see the Great Saiyaman! But there was a problem. His Saiyaman duties were only possible under the darkness of night, because Nappa and Chi-Chi kept him busy throughout the day, and you could tell that this would have an adverse effect on his studies as well as his own mental health. He'd be super tired in the mornings and would really struggle during his training and his questioning. Then one day, during one of his typical rescue missions, the Great Saiyaman bumped into Videl. Naturally, she got herself into a whole heap of trouble because, being the daughter of Mr. Satan, she wanted to try and get in on the Great Saiyaman action and try and rescue people of her own. But unfortunately, she kind of bit off more than she could chew. Yeah, she had great martial arts, but when she's up with goons with loads and loads of guns, then that's a little bit tricky. Luckily, the Great Saiyaman was able to save her, which both angered and fascinated Videl greatly. She decided to track the mysterious superhero instead of the Golden Warrior, like she did in the original anime. She quickly ascertains that the identity of the Great Saiyaman is indeed Gohan, and why would Gohan let his identity be found out so easily? Well, remember when I was talking about him not getting that much sleep? It kind of made him a little bit clumsy, because during the mornings he was trying to hide away his Saiyaman uniform in his backpack, but he left a little bit of it hanging out and the helmet was on top of his locker, and oops. Instead of going to the news though, she decides to actually blackmail Gohan, again similar to the original anime, in order to try and get some training and get in on the action. She forces him to let her work for him, and together they can protect the city and they can get equal billing on the press tabloids. This has even more of an impact on Gohan's grades, which concerns Chi-Chi greatly. But when it becomes clear that it's not their fault and it's Gohan's sloppiness is the cause of her grades, then she decides to blame Nappa for everything. Naturally, being hurt by this, Nappa tries to figure out what's going on with Gohan, so he begins to stalk the boy. It doesn't take him long though. Again, Gohan's being really sloppy trying to hide his costume, and Nappa finds out that the Great Saiyaman is indeed Gohan, and now is the time for an intervention. He tries to talk Gohan out of all of this nonsense, but Gohan doesn't want to hear any of this.
But wait, Nappa has an idea.
He bands together Goten and 17. They plan to try and save Gohan in the only way that they know, by making complete idiots of themselves and making their own costumes to be bad guys. And I think we can assume that Goten had a lot to do with this plan. Nappa and Goten become the Evil Saiyaman and the Little Evil Saiyaman. Goten's not really good at coming up with names, to be fair. And 17 is forced to wear a bucket and some tinfoil around his costume, saying that he is the Great Saiya Robot. Something that 17 really feels uncomfortable with, but whatever. They start terrorizing the population, which, as you can tell, judging from their really lame costumes, causes much more laughter than harm. This of course attracts the attention of Gohan and Videl, and together the Great Saiyaman and the Great Saiyaman 2 arrive on the scene to tackle the Evil Saiyaman, the Little Evil Saiyaman, and the Deadly Saiya Robot. But then they kind of laugh a little bit to themselves because they realize who exactly they are. Nappa, Goten, 17. The charade is broken almost at once. Instead of ending the buffoonery there and then, Gohan and Videl decide to play along a little bit for the cameras. It'll look very good on the evening news. Weird fighting poses, really elaborate talk about justice and whatnot. But Nappa's kind of getting in the mood and almost starting to lose himself and really getting into it physically. That talk by Gohan doesn't go down particularly well, especially for Nappa. Because after all of that training Gohan had with Nappa, he's been training quite a bit and really gotten a lot stronger than he was in the Cell games. He hasn't gone soft in this story. He wrecks Nappa pretty handily, as if to try and vent off some really pent-up frustration. After that, he towers over Nappa looking extremely serious. Gohan pulls Nappa aside and takes his helmet off, giving him an evil glare. He has had enough of him and his mother interfering with his life. He needs his own place, his own identity. He doesn't want to be forced into something he might not want to be. And at that precise moment, he has announced that he is not going to be coming home, and instead is going to go back with Videl. They fly away with Nappa and Goten feeling really sad and confused, and 17 asking whether he can take the bucket off his head. In this version, Videl is much more effective at bringing out Gohan's more rebellious side. As a result, he becomes much more independent much earlier, and it's something at this point Gohan can truly get behind. As a result, Gohan is much keener to actually train with Videl, so their training starts much earlier. And as you can imagine from this, Chi-Chi's really not happy. Despite Goten trying to explain that it's not Nappa's fault, Gohan was really upset, he wants things to change, Chi-Chi doesn't want to hear any of this. She is focused squarely on Nappa. It was a really bad idea to allow him to do what he wants. It's all his fault that her family's tearing apart. She kicks Nappa out of the house and demands that the only way he can come back and live with them is to bring Gohan back with him. So for the time being, Nappa decides to crash at 17 and 18's place. All the while, he continues to try and stalk Gohan, trying to convince the Saiyan to come home, change his mind, relax, we can work things out, maybe relax on the training some bit. Then one day, something happens that could change everything. Goku announces to everyone, telepathically, that he is interested in coming back to Earth to take part in the World Martial Arts Tournament and getting to see everyone again after 7 years. Even Gohan's pretty excited that he'll get to see his dad again. Days later, the Z Fighters reunite with each other at the tournament. Even Kami is there. However, the reunion this time is a lot less joyous than in the original. In fact, it's kinda awkward. Gohan completely blanks Nappa and Chi-Chi as if they weren't there, and Goku's just completely and utterly confused about the situation. What's going on here? And of course, this all descends into Nappa and Chi-Chi having yet another shouting match in front of everybody. Suddenly, they recognize two faces in the crowd. It's Chaozu and Tenshinhan, but they look kind of odd. Tien is much more muscular looking, and Chaozu's looking really haggard and really skinny. They spot a mysterious looking M tattoo on their forehead. Kami can sense that something is wrong with them. This isn't the original Chaozu and Tenshinhan they once remembered back all those years ago. This is a rather odd couple, and I think that's where we'll leave things for the time being. This part set the stage for Gohan's evolution into a much more independent Gohan. Someone who will turn into a much more forward-thinking person, someone who can actually find a true sense of self, having been completely harangued by Nappa and Chi-Chi. The combination of those two would have an irrevocable change on Gohan. And I think all of this will actually lead into a rather compelling Buu saga with Tenshinhan and Chaozu being rather interesting lackeys instead of Spopovich and Yamu. How's that gonna go? Well, we'll have to wait and see. So what do you guys think? Do you like this part? How do you think Tenshinhan's reintroduction will change the effects and dynamics of the story? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!